This presentation begins to look at factors that led Japan into World War II. Remember that this presentation is only a visual representation of the most important information, and there is much more detailed notes and readings on the website. This presentation discusses Japanese expansion, the influence of nationalism and militarism, Japan's role after World War I, and Japan and China in the 1920s. The period from 1912 to 1926 is known as the Taisho Period, when Taisho, the son of the Emperor Meiji, took over. The Taisho Period is known for four things, all of them on the increase. An increase in democracy and a political party system, an increase in internationalism, an increase in militarization, and an increase in modernization. During this time period, certain beliefs or ideologies began to be popular in Japan. The two main popular ideologies were nationalism, an extreme belief that your nation or culture are above others, and militarism, or a belief that the military needs to be strong in order to have a strong nation. And this was for a number of reasons which will become clear throughout this presentation. First, these beliefs really took hold in Japan when America showed up in 1854 at the beginning of the Meiji period. American navalman Matthew Perry showed up with a fleet of modern American battleships wanting to open Japan for trade. Japan had seen how China was crushed by outside countries and did not want war, so they went along with Perry and America by signing the Treaty of Kanagawa. They saw the might of the American warships and knew that if they were going to be respected, they had to have a modern military too. Then, as the world was in disarray after World War I, an untouched Japan took advantage of its opportunities. It expanded to claim Germany's colonies in Asia and the Pacific. It attempted to force itself on a neglected China, and it supplied goods to European countries whose factories had been destroyed by 5 years of war. But, much to Japan's dismay, they were still not considered equals by the white Western countries. The Western countries refused to put a law in the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I, saying that all races would be treated as equals by the worldwide community. Despite the disrespect, Japan made its name on the international community as a country that was trying to expand peacefully and legally, and they were even accepted onto the Council of the League of Nations. Japan even signed tons of treaties with other countries, mostly America and European countries, figuring out how to resolve conflicts in Asia peacefully. The problem was, for many Japanese, why did America and the West have to have so much influence in Asian concerns? But even as the world seemed to respect China more, there were still people in Japan that were unhappy with the way things were going. Many people were still not able to vote, and there were a lot of election scandals and fraud in the government and big business. Many in the military opposed the treaties with the West, wanting Japan to have the most say in Asian politics, and not outsiders. And as Europe recovered after World War I, Japanese goods were no longer needed there, and people began losing their jobs. And although Japan is a series of islands, what happens next door always has an impact on how you do business. Japan's neighbor is China, and while Japan built its own militaries to stand up to the West, China was forcefully overrun by Western militaries. So when Japan wanted to expand, the first place they would go would be next door, and that's China. And that is where Western militaries were located. It's like you wanted to take your neighbor's house by force, but your neighbor is John Cena. How do you think the Chinese felt about what was happening to their country? Who are these stereotyped people? What are they doing? What does that pie represent? How does that guy in the background feel about what is happening to the pie? Why is pie so much better than cake? So why did nationalism and militarism really begin to take hold in Japan during the Taisho period? There were 6 main reasons. First, the desire to become wealthy through their resources, and the desire for colonies, which were really just 2 ways to show that Japan wanted to be seen as equals with the West. Many people believed that it was Japan's destiny to rule all of Asia. Many people, especially those in the military, were angry about Japan making deals with Western countries on how to rule their own territory. Japan needed a way to keep itself safe, which was to build a better military. And, of course, nothing would happen without the support of ordinary citizens. The Taisho period in Japan was a period of peace and democracy, but that was only on the thin outer surface. Bubbling hot and ready to explode from inside were nationalist and militaristic grumblings. The thin candy shell held together while other countries relied on Japan after World War I. But when Japan was not needed, people became angry, wanted to expand, and Japan would soon clash with other powers on the bloc. Remember, this is just a very brief overview with images to put with the ideas. Much more detailed information for those of you that need it is in Part 2 of the Imperial Japan Notes and the readings on the IB Global website.